Hello, and welcome to Mythical Entertainment Interviews. I'm your host, Jeremy Snow. You know me as Mithrandiel. Today we'll be speaking with Raheem Jarbo, otherwise known as Megaran, about his meteoric rise in the nerdcore underground scene. We'll also be discussing what he tells aspiring artists who wish to become as successful as he is. So to start off, I'd like to give you a chance to introduce yourself to people out there who might not know who you are. I know you've done a few interviews in your time as a professional rapper, and so I'm sure you've got that origin story down pat, so to speak. So tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started, and how you ended up where you are now.
Well, the origin story is a fun one to tell. I started in Philadelphia. I was a teacher for a long time. Um, at the same time, I'm a hip hop fan and I guess amateur hip hop artist. I was working on music at the same time and put out my first album in 2006 while I was teaching called The Call. It's just turned 10 years old and very traditional hip hop record that got some made some waves in the area. Let me know that maybe I was on to something, and I moved to Phoenix later on that year to start over to teach in a new
Mm-hmm.
place, and um, and I didn't think I would make any more music, but the only thing that got me through that trip and a whole new place without as many friends and family were video games. So I went back to playing video games for a long time, and that's what gave me the idea to take some of the game sounds that I remembered and sample them, flip them, and put them into some music. And so Mega Man was my favorite, and so it became an album called Mega Ran. I put that out in 2007. Capcom found out about it. I thought they were going to sue me, but they actually,
Yeah.
um, were really nice about it and told me that they thought it was cool, and they invited me out to Comic Con that year in San Diego, and and from there it just went on and on. And I was like, wow, I think I'm on to something. I'm making music I enjoy about the things I enjoy, and then I found out nerdcore was happening at the same time, and I'm like, oh, this is pretty much perfect to what I'm doing. And I started playing a couple of nerd rap, nerd music festivals, as well as comic cons, anime conventions. Just found this whole new world
Mhm.
that was into my music, and and then I eventually resigned from teaching in order to make music full time, and that was about 5 years ago.
Mm.
And here I am, still making
There you
music.
go. Nice. And
That's the
you went on a
short
world
version of
tour,
the
right?
story. I've been on a few
Yeah.
tours. Been to places like the UK, to most of
Mm.
Europe, to Japan, um, Canada, of course, some other places. So yeah, I've been all pretty much all
Nice.
over, and because of nerdy music, which is insane
Yeah.
to me.
Awesome.
But
And
yeah,
then the other half to your kind of dynamic duo is Kay Murdoch, and now he's not here right now, but he is your infamous partner in crime, so to speak. So, how did you guys get to know
yes.
each other, and how did your partnership come about?
That's another cool story to tell because I was in I was in Philly. I was making music, and my I sent my first two albums to him. He worked for satellite radio. He had a hip hop
Mm.
show, and I sent him my two albums in order to hopefully get him to play them on the radio. And he saw the call, and he's like, "Well, this is a good album." He's like, "But when he saw the Black Mega Man on the front of the Mega Ran album, it instantly caught his eye. Like, what the heck is this?"
Yeah.
And so that made him want to rip it open and play it. And so he did. And then he messaged me on MySpace and said, "Hey, man, I really like this." And meanwhile, I was a fan of his work with a group called Panacea. And I didn't realize that Kyle Murdoch was the same K Murdoch from
Mm.
Panacea who ran this radio show. And so as he's talking to me, he's like, "Hey, I've done stuff with this group called Panacea." And I'm like, "Whoa, really? I wait a minute." And so I knew exactly who he was, and we were both mutual fans of each other,
That's cool.
which is
Yeah.
awesome. I've never seen something like that happen before, where I meet someone and we're mutual fans of
Mm.
each other, and so we started working together, and we worked on an album called Forever Famicom, which really kicked down the door, I think, for what we were trying to do with melding hip hop culture and video game
Mhm.
culture, and before that, nothing had really happened like that on that scale. So I was really excited about that, and so we decided to form a partnership. We call it Bits and
Mm.
Rhymes, and that's because it's what it's all about, So we became a partnership and a team. And later, when I started my company, Random Beats, he was the first guy I reached out to be like in-house producer, engineer, um, and helper for that stuff. And it's been going great, man. It's been a great friendship. I honestly call him one of my best friends. He works just as hard as I do on music. He's also a father now, so yeah, he's all over the place, but super dedicated to his
That's
craft.
awesome. When I first started listening to your music, I think one of the things I really appreciated was how you integrated stories from your childhood into your music. I think a lot of people see kids playing video games now and they think, oh, that's going to rot their brain, or, oh, they shouldn't be wasting their time and that sort of thing. But for kids that don't have a lot, I think that it definitely has a positive influence on their lives, or it can. In what ways would you say that playing video games has, as a child, has positively influenced you? And then I know you briefly mentioned you were playing video games when you made that move. Like, how do you see that impact on your life, and in what ways?
Oh man, it's most apparent in my life, where um, and what I do, I'm related now to video games
Right.
forever, and also indebted to video games forever. I've worked on music so many times, and I've been playing games since the '80s, and but at some point I felt like hip hop and video games are never supposed to mix. They're never supposed to mesh. Comic books and video games, same
Right.
thing. Comic books and hip hop, and I never put them together. But I realized at some point that they're so essential to who I am, So therefore, I do owe a little bit of them. So why not sprinkle some of that into my content? And I can go to literal situations, but stuff like mainly the story of a song called Dream Master.
Mm.
I talk about that a lot, where playing on the block, playing video games literally has saved my life in a lot of situations where my friends would come by and say, "Hey, man, do you want to go with us? We're about to go to the mall and get into some trouble." And I'm like, "Nah, I'm gonna stay here and play Double
Yeah.
Dragon,"
Yeah.
and then something happens and one of those kids winds up in jail or something
Right.
crazy. That there's been so many situations like that where because I've decided to stay in and play games, with friends. We would have Tecmo Bowl tournaments, and we'd be in the house playing Tecmo Bowl all night. And so my friends would come by like, "Come on, man, let's go roll out and
Mm.
get into something." And we would just be having such a blast that we would stay in, and then things would happen. The bad
Right.
things. A lot of guys would get hurt or even killed, and different things. So I feel like games definitely saved my life because if I didn't have that option, I would have been out on the street, and who knows where I'd be right now. So this is my way. My career in essence is a way of giving back to video game culture and showing kids that come from areas like me or just kids in general that, this stuff can save lives. I mean, granted, you don't want to overdo it,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, but I think that, you take breaks regularly, go outside and all that stuff. But, there is something to be said for kids who play video games being, smarter, quicker, the hand-eye coordination stuff, the
Mm.
imagination and the creativity. And yeah, I think you can go on to do really great things. And now there are jobs even that exist in the game world and related to gaming that didn't exist 10 years ago or 20 years
Right.
ago. So now parents say, "Oh, this is a waste of time," and don't realize that this is stuff that could actually change your life and create new
Hmm.
opportunities for people. People get paid a lot of money to sit home and
Oh
play
yeah,
games.
absolutely. It's
It's
yeah,
insane to think about that, but it's true.
yeah.
So, parents just don't understand, to quote Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince.
Right. I mean, of course, everything in moderation, but I think you definitely have a good point there. I mean, I know personally, like when I was in high school, we had a club, and we would stay in the computer lab, during lunch and after school, playing Unreal Tournament and StarCraft and games like that. And it was, they would always come by and be like, "Oh man, why don't you guys go play outside or whatever?" And it's like, well, at least where we are. At least we're not getting out there getting into trouble. We're in here, being nerds and playing video games, and that was
Absolutely.
okay. So yeah, I mean, we kind of shared that experience. I think that's something that I relate to a lot, as well as your love for Mega Man. Um, is there something specific about the Mega Man franchise that really, I mean, what made it stand out so much to you that you would center your persona around it? Because you could have just as easily been like one of the Double Dragon brothers or something, right? What was it
Yeah,
that
I could have.
that kind of made Mega Man your spirit animal, so to speak?
Oh, I mean, there was so much to it. I mean, the graphics were awesome. They were colorful. There was great music. Gameplay mechanics were so original. You know, taking powers from one robot and using it against another. Um, just such a very original set of parameters. And so I feel like in music, that's really what I've tried to do. Originally, my name was
Mm,
Random when I was making music at the beginning, and random is a word that was, I guess, kind of hard to, I don't know, it's hard to own on the internet. I'll say that.
Anonymous, right?
Um,
Yeah.
it's so hard to, to find a person named Random on the internet. So, thanks to the Mega Man stuff, me doing it and grouping with that and calling myself Mega Ran, a lot of people have started to associate me with that name. So it was something that I needed to adopt. And honestly, because I felt like just being versatile was my main goal in music, and that was where Random came from. It's just like doing the unexpected is what I wanted to
Mm,
do. Um, but Mega Man is situationally
right.
versatile, and so that's what I wanted to do with my music more so than anything, is to be able to take in a situation where someone needs a helping hand or some encouraging words, I could do that. Someone needs to laugh, I could do that. Someone needs to, just hear that they're not alone out there and hear someone else's story that reflects their own, I could do that. So therefore, that's where the Mega Man, influence comes in more so than anything. And that was something that I didn't even realize, but for the longest time, Mega Man had influenced me before I'd even first rapped on a video game
Mm,
beat.
yeah.
So it's about being versatile and being ready for any situation. And that's Mega Man to a
Yeah,
T.
for sure. I can definitely attest to that versatility when I was kind of listening through your discography, and you definitely run the gamut of comedy and drama on all these different tracks. And I was actually playing. It's one of your shorter tracks, but introvert bars. I
Uh,
played that for my friend on the way over here, and I just think it's so funny. I played it for my wife too, and she's kind of an introvert. She's like, "Oh my god, that's me. Uh, that's my life." So
oh, there's so many people who tell me like, "Oh my gosh, this
this
is
is
my
my
life."
social life in a nutshell. Oh my gosh, yeah, that's great.
I
Yeah,
love that. And yeah, I think that's one that a lot of people have asked me
yeah,
about. So we're actually going to shoot a short video for
oh yeah,
that. And then there's a couple of guys that I know who also make music who wanted me to extend that. So I think I will wind up extending the
yeah.
introvert bars
That's a
song,
great track.
just for all the introverts
Yeah,
out there.
it's a great
We
track.
need a theme
Yeah,
song.
my audio engineer over here is he's laughing because he's in agreement with you. Um, I would say with such a love for Mega Man, right? Your invitation to create a track for Inafune's upcoming title, Mighty Number Nine, must have been quite an honor. So, what's the story behind that? How did that come about?
Well, I was on
Mm,
tour. I remember being out with Danimal Cannon and Matt Weiss, Storyville of the Soul Veggies, and we were on tour. This was last year, right after MagFest, and I saw an email, and I've been in talks with the Mighty Number Nine guys because a lot of them are either former Capcom guys or the just guys that I dealt with when I went over to Japan
mm,
before. So I've been in talks with a few of them, and my friend John LaFleur got back to me and sent me an email and said, "Hey, do you think you'd be interested in doing some music for this game?" And I said, yeah,
right.
And he's like, all right, well, here's the deal. We need you to sample the original theme that we have already for the game, but we want you to do it in this way, and we want you to do it in about a week and a
Oof.
half, and we want it to be 8 minutes long.
Yikes.
And I'm like, wait, what? So at this point, I'm already on the road. So I'm like, oh my gosh, there's no way we can do this. And so luckily, I hit up K Murdoch, who's always available. I hit up K Murdoch and I'm like, dude, we have a serious mission but this could be awesome. So I tell him about it, and then I send him the track they want us to sample, and he starts working on it while we're on the road. Um, I start writing a little bit while we're on the road as well, and somehow, some way, by hook or by crook, we got it
Mm.
done. And Dana Mulcahy, who was with me, laid down some sick guitar on it. Matt Weiss was there, Storyville, laid down a verse and engineered and mastered the whole thing. And we got it done right at the 11th hour and sent it in, and they were like, "We love it." But it turns out it was 7.5 minutes. So it wasn't it wasn't as long as they
Mhm.
wanted, but they were like, "This will work." And I was like, "Well, why does it have to be that long?" And they said, "Because the ending credits of the game are long. They have a lot of people to thank."
Yeah,
And
because of
they
all
have
the
like thousands
backers
of
and
backers.
yeah, yeah,
So I had never had to create under those rules before, but it was fun and it kept me focused. And I like working with deadlines, even if they are a week away,
yeah,
and I was really happy with the way it came out, and just honored. I mean, as a huge supporter and fan of Inafune's
mm,
work, to be like hand selected by him
right,
was just super nerve wracking, but an honor. And so right before my show this past weekend, a lot of the guys from Inti Creates were at Magfest in DC,
hmm,
and Ippo Yamada, who does a lot of the compositions for Mighty Number Nine, came to my show right before I went on stage. He came
uh huh,
backstage, and he's like in Japanese tells me "ganbate," which means do a
uh
great
huh,
job. And I was so nervous, knowing that he was there watching. But him telling me that and giving me a big hug was all the encouragement I needed. And we went out and had a really great show. And man, I can't wait till this game comes out.
yeah,
And I mean, I feel like I feel bad like that I kind of spilled the beans
mm,
early because I put the record on my album,
hmm,
but it was only when they were originally planning to release the same week as my album.
right,
And so the song's been out there a while, but I really love it. The Mighty song is one of my favorite tracks I've ever done. And so I can't wait I think I'm gonna just faint if I'm playing that game and then I hear my music at the end. Like I
you
don't
can
know
die happy,
what's gonna
right?
happen.
It's like this is it. This is the
Absolutely.
culmination of my work. That's awesome. Um, Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm definitely on the boat in terms of waiting eagerly for that title to arrive. I was among, I think I was in the first few days that I backed it, and this was like a couple years ago now. So I'm waiting for it to get here. I know a lot of people are. Before we move away from Mega Man stuff, I just have to ask you which Mega Man game is your favorite?
Mm. Well, this changes every once in a
Uh,
while, but for the most part, it's three. Three is the one I come
yeah.
back to the
All
most.
right.
I think three is when they got the mechanics absolutely
Mhm.
perfect, and then they kind of just copied three for the rest of the classic
Right.
series.
I gotta say, Gemini Man is probably one of my favorite boss monsters. Not boss monsters, but robot masters.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Um,
hmm
all right. So with video games having such a strong impression on your work, do you feel that it limits you from reaching a wider audience, or would you say that you try to strike a balance between more of the nerdcore genre and traditional hip hop?
I try to strike the balance, but honestly, I feel like the amount of attention that the nerdcore based projects get is what may keep me from reaching a stronger or larger audience. But I don't worry about that, honestly. I just make the music and let the people decide if they, how they feel about it and where they want to take it. And I can't concern myself too much with where I would be, should be, or could
Right.
be. I just have to focus on where I am and do that to the best of my ability. So I go through it all the time, and there's a track on the new album called the meeting,
Yeah.
which is about that same topic because this is something that I discuss with myself all the
Mhm.
time is random versus mega ran or
Mhm.
hip hop versus nerdcore or things like that. But honestly, I think it's better to be known for something than nothing at all. So I'm not concerned or sad about the fact that let's just say a more a more traditional hip hop track is not going to get as many downloads, clicks, or buys or views as a video game based
Mm.
track. But I understand is that nostalgia that it's rooted in that would make that a different distinction. So honestly, I don't worry about it. I just make the music that I'm feeling at the time, and I have fun with it. And when the job's not fun anymore, that's when I won't do it
Yeah.
anymore. But I do for myself. I feel like I need to have that balance in myself. So I do. I make sure that the albums are balanced. I think that the new album Random is balanced. It's down the middle. Um, as far as hip hop versus video games. And and that's really all I can do. I think I do it for myself. I think I finally found the balance that works for me on that record. So there's songs like Infinite Lives where there is a video game backing
Hmm.
track. There's introvert bars, but pretty much the rest of the record is, all original
Mm.
compositions and just talking about regular life stuff.
Yeah.
So something for everybody is what I try to do for my entire life, trying to please everyone. But I think that I've finally just figured out how to please myself, and that's why I think this is my best record yet.
And speaking of random, I mean, you did a lot of collaborative work on that album. Uh, Not putting anyone on
Mhm.
blast, who do you have the most fun with when you're working on a track together?
Ah, well, I would say Rocky Tirade, who's on the introvert bars, not introvert bars. He's on Macro
Oh, okay.
Sky, and we just put out a video for that. Um, he's a good friend of mine. We've been friends for almost 10 years, and so I think that because of longer lasting friendships, it tends to make more fun
Mhm.
tracks. It's definitely a bucket list item to have rapped with like Cool Keith, for example. But I don't necessarily know him personally, so he heard the song, he liked it, he jumped on it. We went back and forth with some ideas, and then it was
Uh-huh.
done. But but being in studio with Rocky, having him come through, telling him what the song's about, watching his writing process, which is really weird. He kind
Uh-huh.
of he like lays on the floor and then like mutters the words to himself over and over again
Uh-huh.
until it comes out, and then an hour later he's like, "All right, I'm ready." It's really a sight to
Mhm.
see. And so yeah, just being able to laugh and joke with him while in the studio and even working on a song is being able to bring your friends in is always I think the most
Yeah.
fun. So but with K Murdoch for the meeting was an awesome experience as well. Machito Yamane did the introduction uh, in piano, and like being able to work with her specifically, on the BPM and the feel and the all that
Right.
stuff was super amazing. It's kind of surreal to me to be able to do that. But but yeah, I think it's always most fun when it's with your
Yeah.
friends, though.
Yeah. If you can do the work that you love with friends, I think that's the best, right? um, so the so the technological age that we're in now has done a lot to empower artists between YouTube and DeviantArt and SoundCloud and other platforms like that. Artists can now share their work with the world easier than ever before. But at the same time, it's also really easy to get disheartened seeing all this content out there, all this talent out there in the world. What do you tell young people who want to become rappers and artists and game developers and things like that when they see essentially all this competition, like even more so than even 20 years ago?
I tell any artist or rapper or content creator that they better be able to have thick skin and in this world, and just be okay with someone not liking your
Mm.
stuff. I mean, there's just way too many people out in the world, and everyone's not going to like it. So if you're not getting a reaction, from this particular group, then you got to move on. You can't target one area. Sometimes your targets find you, and that's what happened with me. And honestly, I feel that the next thing is make sure what you're doing is dynamic and make sure it's different from anything that's out there.
Hmm.
I hate to use the word niche, but a lot of my friends that are in marketing use that, like find your niche,
Right.
find your niche. I hate
Yeah.
that, but it's kind of true. Like you got to figure out who's going to like this, who's going to smile when they see this, who's going to get excited about it, and you got to find them. I'm reading a book because I think that my next piece of advice on that would be never stop learning because uh, even the best teachers are the best students, you know. And so much of what I learned from education helps me in music. So study up on the business, study up on your industry, you know, read as many books as you can by experts and keep that in mind when you're creating. I'm reading a book now that gave me great advice, you know, so I'm still learning, you
Hmm.
know. I remember watching an interview with I think it was Denzel Washington saying that he still takes acting
Yeah.
classes,
Yeah.
you know? Like, so you never stop learning, you know? And so I think that that's the one thing when you think that you know it all because you've picked it up, that's when you lose.
Mm.
So you got to remember that you don't know it all. And some kid could come off the street and literally just explode on the
Mm.
internet, you know, and can jump right past you. So you know, just keep in mind that you never know
Yeah.
it all. Like learn what you can from your peers, from other artists, other creators, and find a mentor. That's my last piece of advice there. Find a mentor that you can talk to and learn
Yeah.
from.
Awesome. Yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned, somebody can just kind of, some kid can just come off the street and become a viral sensation overnight in a way, this YouTube age, SoundCloud age, et cetera. It keeps you on your toes, right? It makes it
Mhm.
much more essential for you to stay on top of everything. Because if you don't, somebody else will. So that's great. That's some great
Absolutely.
advice. Before we wrap up, we're just about done now. What's next for Megaran? Do you have some tour dates coming up? Are you going to be at any convention? Are you going to be at Comic Con again this year? What are your
Mm.
plans coming up in the next few months?
Wow. Well, the entire I don't know when this is going to air or anything like that, but
This is going to go up
I
next
would
Friday.
say
Yeah.
okay. So
Yeah.
perfect. So I started tour March 1st with MC Lars. We're working on an album together called Lit Hop, the
Hmm.
EP, where we're going to take our favorite books and write rap songs
Oh, that's
about them.
cool.
And it's coming together really good, really good. We just finished this track about Ready Player One,
Mm.
which is one of my favorite books. Um, so that starts March 1st in Salt Lake City, and then Denver, then Omaha, St. Louis, Minneapolis, Chicago, Cincinnati, Ann Arbor, Buffalo, Boston, Brooklyn, Philly, Raleigh, North Carolina, and then Dallas, and then we'll be in Austin for South by Southwest. Then I have a couple of dates solo, which is
Mhm.
Houston, New Orleans, Boise on the 25th, 26th, 27th. And and then I just found out that I'll be at WrestleMania the week after that. And
WrestleMania,
not
really?
just for fun, but for business as
Okay, all
well.
right.
I'm working on a wrestling EP
Okay,
and it's coming out the week of WrestleMania.
that's awesome, man.
So I will be in Dallas for that, and there's a convention called WrestleCon, and I'll be there. Then I don't know exactly what's going on after that, but I will absolutely be at Comic Con in San
Awesome.
Diego and PAX East in.
Awesome, awesome. Well, hopefully we'll touch base with you maybe at Comic Con once you're done with this what sounds like a whirlwind tour.
Oh, oh
Um,
yeah,
all right. Well, again, thank you, Megaran. We really appreciate you taking the time today, and we look forward to hearing more from you.
anytime. Thank you.